Let's do an actual tier list for the best defenders in Fortnite Save the World. In my previous tier list video, I'll link it down just for historical reference. Defenders got an update where they would run around and follow you, and that's great, and they can revive you, and that's awesome, and they look a lot like this, where they are moving around the map on their own, and they are no longer requiring defender pads. All of that is pretty good. The problem is, when that update hit, they were forced to default weapons that were really, really bad. I don't know the exact stats on those weapons, but they weren't yours. They weren't leveled up, and they did not have perks of your choice. They were very useless. Now, you might be optimistic and say, well, what if they're actually pretty good? They were not. I'll tell you that. And that video down below has a reference. But they changed it so you can hand them your own weapons now. So we actually have a conversation to have. There are 5 defender types. You've got assault ones, melee, pistols, and SMGs. Although in the current version that I'm recording this, SMGs aren't working. That's a bug. It should work in the future. Then we got shotguns and snipers / bows. And I do believe there is a hierarchy, and that's what we are here to talk about today. So let's get back to this list here and just get straight into it. AR defenders are really, really good. In my opinion, S tier is going to be a little dramatic, okay? Because there are only 5 types. S tier would be like, OMG, use these every single time, perfectly viable. And that, in my opinion, applies to assault defenders. The male-female counterparts have no differences whatsoever, except for kind of Val, and we'll talk about that when we get to them. Defenders each have their own unique perks, and the men and women don't have any differences. You just kind of have to get lucky and see who you've got. It doesn't really matter other than cosmetics. So, in my opinion, S tier ARs. It depends on the weapons that you're using. There are lots of different options. So like Duet was really fun to mess with. It kind of had a lot of steam. I have a whole video that I'm going to link down below on the best weapons to use for defenders. That does dramatically affect how good defenders are, although there are excellent options for all of them, because the defenders nowadays, check this out, they don't just use the weapons you hand them, but they use a weapon that does not need to be crafted. They can all share the same schematic, and they don't use any ammo at all. It's completely free. It's completely free. You can set the perks, the element, everything you want. It's fantastic. So, when you can get things set up with like the Gamatron 9000, the exploding projectiles, whatever, that video gets into more details. AR defenders are S tier. Now, melee is tricky. I'm going to put them in B tier. You can use them, but it's difficult because melee defenders don't always target the enemies very well. In situations like this, you can see them. It's tricky. Like, they'll do damage. They'll do fine when they're there, but they get knocked back easily. They get overwhelmed and killed because they have to be very close to do damage, and they don't always target the enemy in a timely manner. I'm going to use all the footage that I recorded for that other video, but stuff like this happens. One pitcher just stays alive for entirely too long. Now, I'm not going to harp on the AI too heavily. All the defenders are a little quirky, but you definitely have a situation where melee really seems to underperform, but I'm still putting them in B tier because they're completely fine. The damage is going to be sufficient for killing. They're just going to be a little slow. So they'll work. You can use them. Just don't expect too much. And Val is definitely ordered on top of the other one, and that's the one exception. So male-female, when it comes to melee defenders, the only female is Val, and she's available through a quest line with set perks. So she always has damage, movement speed, crit rating, crit damage, and max health. It's an exact even spread, super clean for all melees. The bruiser dude is, I mean, this is Ned, right? Like, yeah, he has all sorts of different perks. He upgrades axes, clubs, hardwares, and swords separately. What the fuck, Epic? I get what you're trying to go for, but like, just give us melee weapon damage. What is this mess? If you can find a good bruiser set with like crit rating, double crit damage somehow, that would be fantastic, but good luck. You will be rolling for those perks for a while. I recommend exclusively using Val unless you get very lucky. She is consistently fine. These perks are great. You got damage, crit rating, crit damage, movement speed, max health. That is clean. That'll do the job, and it's consistent. So she is definitely better than the male counterpart, but honestly, your weapons are what's really carrying the damage. Their perks apply, so it doesn't super matter. I have 2 copies of Val in here because I dragged and dropped her twice. Just ignore that. So the pistol defenders should also count for SMGs. They are extremely strong. I handed them Paper Shredder and Tiny Swim to death, and it annihilated. So I woke up the enemies, ran around, they activate, and it boom, 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 boom. I mean, their accuracy isn't perfect, but they do a really, really solid job. And again, it's completely free. So if they take a little bit of extra time to kill, yeah, it's kind of forgivable, but they do really, really well. They do really, really well. So I know this footage is kind of all over the place, but you know, it's live recording and I'm just chilling. But yeah, it was doing great. Honestly, doing great. So if you hand them the right weapons, I would say pistol defenders are perhaps S tier. I don't see any reason you shouldn't just use them all the time if you'd like, which in my opinion is really, really great. Now, I'm gonna shock people because when it comes to shotguns, you can use the black drum. Thank you, Kitsune Supremacy in the Discord for sending this video. They demonstrated that the black drum does activate its explosion and it does do a lot of damage, at least in this 132 zone. The thing is, it's not always reloading after every shot. They are hurting themselves in the process, so they get killed a lot. It's not as consistent, and it's not as exciting as you would expect it to be. I even had a ton of fun with the Pulsar 9000. They did really, really well. Again, the footage is going to be all over, but they did a lot of good damage. But you can see right there it's happening. The range is a huge problem. So while the damage is impressive, and if I can actually pull up the first clip, I think this is where I had the most fun, because these enemies showed it exactly. The range was so far away, they started firing and doing nothing. That is bad. You don't want that happening in a real game. But like, once they're close enough, that annihilates everything. So it's S tier damage sometimes. And when enemies have to be up close and personal like that, your defenders have to be right in front of them, there's a high chance of them dying. So in my opinion, the shotgunners are A tier. They are very, very strong sometimes. You could argue with me and say, so long as you're in the action yourself, they're S tier. Well, then go for it. In my opinion, in my personal play, I have decided to opt for a more varied approach. Like, you could probably just use defenders. I'm sorry, sniper defenders. You could probably just use AR. You could probably just use pistols. But I like to theme it with, I haven't set it up yet, which class I'm using. So if I'm using melees, I want melee defenders, even though I just put him in B tier, right? If I'm using Eddie, he's in melee, he should have melee. If I'm using shotguns, I want to have shotgun defenders. These Dragon's Mites were super fun. So like, even though I'm putting them in A tier instead of S tier, the Dragonmite firecracker spam is extremely interesting. It is a ton of knockback, which is very helpful in an actual defense, by the way, and it's a really good amount of damage. It does so well. I was really impressed. So, you know, being able to use all the different defender types, just scaling it with whichever type of hero I'm already using, I think is a really fun way to do it. So as I'm ranking some of these in S tier, some of these in A tier, some of these in B tier, I want you to remember the fact that all of them are completely viable and you should use whatever you enjoy. That being said, I do believe sniper defenders might still be S tier. They are really, really good. It's a little awkward with pointing stuff right now. Thank you, Kieran, for this footage. But the trick that's happening is the Blastotron 9000. This happens for not just the sniper, but all the weapons. When it crits, it's supposed to have a 3-second cooldown, which is not something defenders seem to care about. So they'll just boom those 7 explosions all the time. And if the functionality is improved where you can point them to defend a certain location and they don't wander around too much, defenders, sniper defenders, can stand on top of your base and be safe and away from the action with a super long range, because snipers have long range. In my opinion, that will make them S tier. They are very, very strong and very effective at doing what they do, but they're all great, as I've been very explicit about. And founders are, okay, I was gonna put F tier for founders just because that's funny. They are objectively worse. I think it's cool and it's neat that founders defenders exist and we've got these purple copies, epic employees, that's sweet, I love that. But they are purple copies because of epic, get it? Because epic rarity, epic games, I mean, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. But they're just like marginally worse. So like C tier, I mean, if you use them, they are fine. If you're a founder and you want to use founders defenders, go for it. It will get the job done. Again, your weapon is carrying most of that damage, because realistically, if we look at it, the difference between, say, gunslinger versus gunslinger is really just health and shield. The damage should be fine, I believe, and then they have like 1 less perk. So they are objectively weaker. I know my overlay is kind of covering it, but you can see that it's 5 versus 4. So they will just be less competent at killing the enemies, but they are still fun and they are still worth using. So there's my updated tier list. I'm so happy that I can make a legit tier list this time instead of just talking about how they're all the same, it doesn't matter, because I think this is a really cool update and it's really fun to mess around with. Comment down below what you think, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys in the next one. I record these on stream, so Twitch link down below if you guys ever want to be a part of it. And that's it. Have a great rest of your day.